Coming up in the Extra Point, me and Junnie will go into a little debate about our Extra Point Twitter poll about the men's and women's basketball teams and who would win in a 1v1 contest.
And a little bit later, we are going to go through all the big moves on the NFL and the NFL draft coming up. Me and Noah are going to give our expert opinions on what's been going on in the league.
The Extra Point.
Welcome into the Extra Point. Earlier this week, we put out a Twitter poll. Junnie, I'm sure as you saw, we had men's and women's 1v1 basketball to talk about. And so I'm going to give my opinions on a little bit. So we had Tavion Hollingsworth and Josh Anderson in our first matchup. And in that one, I voted for Tavion Hollingsworth mainly because he's one of the best scorers in school history. He's a point guard, so he's great at taking off the dribble. However, I think he would struggle against Josh Anderson's length and size. Who'd you pick in that one?
I actually picked Josh Anderson. I mean, when it comes down to a game of one-on-one, you know what? Tell me you haven't played one of your good buddies who's on the basketball team, who you're a little bit bigger than, backed him up in the post, and got a few buckets on him. I think Josh Anderson would get him in a one-on-one game. Obviously, if I'm picking who's the better player for the team, it's going to be Hollingsworth. But, I mean, Josh Anderson in the one-on-one game, man, I'm taking his skills and athleticism all day long. No
Yeah,
question.
you know, whenever you mention that, I almost feel like I voted wrong now, but I have an upset pick later, or one of the ones that ended up on the unfavorable side. So then we move on to, I think, well, surprisingly was a little bit more of a blow, and I thought it'd be closer, be Charles Bassey and Carson Williams. Now, I picked Charles, but part of me playing against Carson and seeing him play in high school, knowing he can compete with just about anybody on the floor with his physicality and his moves on the post, on the block, makes me think that he could beat Charles in a one-on-one game. Who'd you pick in that one?
I definitely picked Charles Bassey, man. I mean, you're talking about a top 3 recruit in his class. He can do it all. A great defender, definitely a great shot blocker, and can get down the post, can hit you with a great jump shot there from the wing. I mean, he's just got an all-around game. I just don't see anybody beating Charles Bassey in the
Yeah, his shot blocking ability does make him a better choice, in my opinion, to win that match against Carson Williams. And then we had another interesting one between the two shooters for the Hilltoppers, between Jared Savage and Cam Justice. Now, I went Jared Savage because of his physicality and ability to defend. Who'd you pick in that one?
I picked Jared Savage, dude, mainly for the same reasons, man. He can get down in nitty-gritty, but also when you catch him open around the perimeter, man, he is knocking it down all the time. So, yes, I definitely picked Jared Savage in that one.
Yeah, and Cam Justice at times this season kind of disappeared whenever the Hilltoppers need him, so I know that I could get that so I can maintain a little consistency with Jared Savage. And then finally on the men's side, we had Kenny Cooper and Jordan Rawls. And Jordan Rawls actually won this one. I voted for Kenny Cooper because seeing him in Lipscomb in the NCAA tournament, he's so quick with the ball and he scores it and he's a great distributor. I just feel like that full credit distributing doesn't really come into the factor in 1v1. But I feel like that he would still, with his scoring ability, all 3 levels of the floor, would probably beat Jordan Rawls one-on-one. Who'd you pick?
I actually, and again, no, I agree with you. I actually picked the same one. Like I said, just his speedy quickness and his foot speed, the way that he can dribble off the ball, kind of like on a WKU level, Allen Iverson-esque, just really getting over there. I definitely picked him just because of his pure athleticism and quickness off the ball.
And then we move on to the women's side. We had first Alexis Brewer and Meryl Abdelgawad. And I went Alexis Brewer just because she's the guard playing against the forward, so she's going to be a little quicker. She can step out and shoot the 3. She's got a great mid-range jumper from the free throw line. Abdelgawad, however, can step out and shoot it too. I just feel like that, you know, whenever we're talking about getting buckets in 1v1, Brewer's your girl to go get them.
No, I definitely agree. She definitely has the advantage there. All the intangibles you said, I don't really have much to add on that one. So we can just move on just because, yeah, definitely. I just think the way she matches up with her, I'd have to agree with you.
And then Alexis Brewer won that one. So then moving on to Whitney Creech and Sherry Porter. Sherry Porter is strictly a shooter, so I went with Whitney Creech, who is the Kentucky high school girls' all-time leading scorer in state history. I just feel like that was the easy pick there whenever we're picking between those two. And so did the votes, winning 81% of votes for Whitney Creech.
No, easily. When it comes down to it, like, you got to have a more all-around game, not just being a shooter out there. So I definitely think that was an easy pick for us and for the fans to go with somebody with a more all-around game than just somebody who can shoot from the perimeter.
And then the most lopsided vote, not winning 97% of the votes, Dee Gibbons beating Sandra Skinner. I think everybody pretty much Big D.
I was about to
Just
say,
the best
what do we got to talk about there?
She's the Josh Anderson in terms of length and being able to play defense and shoot the three and get to the cup. She just does it all. And then finally, I was in the major minority for this in between Fatou Poye and Raneem El-Jadewi. I picked Fatou because I feel like that Raneem, in one-on-one, if we're checking it up at the top of the key, Fatou might be able to blow by her because Raneem definitely doesn't have this top-end speed athleticism as other girls who play Division I college basketball.
Absolutely. No, I'm definitely on the same page with you. Other than a few of them, I think me and you are on the same page. I think this round of polls wasn't too difficult to get through. Only a few controversial picks there. I definitely think that we cleared that one up when we disagreed on.
Yeah, I went 6 for 8 in terms of voting. So, mostly for the most part, I'm with everybody else. But when we come back, Junnie and I will be able to talk to you guys about some NFL news and other news in terms of sports and when they're going to come back.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear. Because for 75 years, he's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
But there's a lot more to say. Like, if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
Welcome back to The Extra Point. Noah McGhee here with Junnie Riddle. And up next, we're going to talk about something that I think it's on everybody's mind, Junnie, is when are sports coming back?
Man, a whole month without sports. Who would have thought that we would have been in a predicament like this where, guys like us who we just binge watch sports on the daily are going through and just having to watch reruns and all this other kind of stuff. But I actually have high hopes that sports are going to come back here soon, Noah. According to the president and according to other officials from the White House, and they met with a bunch of the commissioners on a big joint call. And they have pretty high hopes that some of these sports leagues can start up in either late May or sometime around mid-June, and that, that we're about to hit our peak with this virus, and that, maybe fans might not be able to attend for the first couple months or so, until things starts coming back to normal. But I could definitely see, leagues such as like the NBA or the NHL start running their playoffs sometime in mid-June, say. And then for the MLB, I think that they're going to start probably even earlier than that because they want to get their season started. But definitely don't see any fans being a part of these athletic events in the upcoming months, but definitely seeing the league start up again, which would be a good step. Obviously, I can definitely see that towards late May, anywhere from late May to around mid-June.
Yeah, absolutely. And go back to the MLB. So some of the details that people might not have heard about this. So the MLB, from what it sounds like they might almost try to house all baseball clubhouses in Arizona for the time being and having them stay in a strict hotel, go to stadiums, and then go back. And that's it. No fans, or I don't even know about media. But then in terms of the NBA, which with the NBA, we've seen baseball without spectators back when the Baltimore Orioles had to play in a closed stadium during the Baltimore riots in the early 2010s. But with the NBA, what they're talking about doing is, the summer league is played in Orlando and in Vegas, and they have many practice gyms there. And so they're almost thinking about playing 3-game series playoffs in a practice gym with no fans. And I was just thinking, I don't even know if that would be broadcasted. And at some point, the energy, I think, of the playoffs would just be obviously sucked out of the atmosphere with no fans and playing a 3-game series and just coming off this month-long break. And I just talk about it. It definitely has been a struggle. This past Monday night was supposed to be the national championship game, so it's kind of hard, especially sitting here, especially coming back from Texas from the Conference USA tournament, knowing that we weren't going to get any more college basketball. I'm not the optimist in the situation. I feel like that it'll be a long time before we see contact sports again, to the point where I'm with who came out a couple weeks ago, Kirk Herbstreit. I don't know if we'll get football on time. And I'm personally and I know for you too, that scares me. That scares me. That scares you, because that's our thing. So we're really worried, and hopefully, this thing blows over as long as everybody just sticks together, social distances, and washes their hands and all. Hopefully we can get through this and get sports back faster than what the experts are predicting.
And not only just the timetable of when some of these sports are going to turn, like you said, like the way that the NBA is going to do it, like what kind of resounding impact in history is this going to have on if they do end up coming back? Like whoever wins the championship, or let's say they do it in a practice gym. I mean, are people really going to credit the team for, winning that championship?
Like, that's the argument.
It's almost like for like the NBA, for how big as it is and how meaningful it is for these fans. It's almost like kind of pointless if you're going to do it like that to have it, because it's like every fan that doesn't win or, whose team is competing for it, will be like, oh, well, the circumstances are the reason, like, oh, it doesn't really count. Right. There's always going to be like a little asterisk right next to that championship, say if they do have these playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially it's been the big conversation with the NBA, because obviously the team of the year so far has been the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James, of course. And in the GOAT conversation between LeBron and Jordan has been, well, what if LeBron was to go and win this put together championship playoff run in a practice gym? Would you really count that as like a ring and a detriment to his legacy? And that's what people are having a hard time deciding. So that would be really interesting to see how fans, in terms of LeBron's legacy, would see that if they were to play out these playoffs in a practice gym in Vegas.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing for LeBron. And I mean, with just speaking about LeBron's very like aware of these scenarios and these things that people are going to put out the narrative. That it was an artificial championship or whatnot. And I don't blame the critics for that. I mean, it is kind of an artificial championship. And if LeBron were to win, I mean, are we really gonna count that? Like, I don't know. But when it comes down, if we're gonna get into the whole GOAT conversation, I know that LeBron is going to hate this new 10-part documentary that's about to come out on Michael Jordan, because that's just going to bring all that hype back. It's going to bring the conversation back. Personally, I don't care if LeBron wins or not, whether it's an actual series or not. I don't think he's catching Michael Jordan. That's just my opinion as a huge fan of the NBA. But yeah, definitely. No matter if they have it or not, if they were to have something like that, I just don't think that the fans would take it seriously. I don't think the fans would count the champion as the actual champion of this season. But it's just something that we're going to have to wait and see about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's enough of that. But when we come back, me and Junnie, we will have the best part of the show coming up. We're going to talk NFL free agency and the draft, the two things that we are hanging on to right now through the COVID-19 pandemic. Coming back after this commercial break.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Touchdown! Oh, did you see that? Whoa, we scored? Yeah, we scored. We're going to the playoffs. I can't believe I missed that. Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone. What? I should take your phone away.
No. I'll call for a ride.
Hey, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine.
But I need that back.
No.
Kevin!
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother,
Yes.
you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse,
Yes.
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Because of you, I felt hopeless.
I know it was a joke, but it still hurt me.
Because of you, I felt wanted and not alone in this world.
Because you said hi to me on the first day of school, I felt included and I knew that I was going to be okay.
Welcome back into the Extra Point. Now for our favorite, going to be our favorite part of the show today, Junnie, because we're going to talk about the NFL for however long our mouths allow us. And so obviously with everything going on, free agency and the new league year has started. And the biggest news, of course, Tom Brady to the Buccaneers. Give me your initial thoughts on it.
It's a franchise-changing move for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, coming into this season, like I knew that there was an opportunity that Tom Brady was going to leave. Didn't think it was going to happen. I wouldn't believe it until I see it. And even if it did happen, I didn't think it was going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was probably the last team on my radar. But when you think about it, this team had a top 3 run defense last year. Their secondary is a little bit iffy. They had a top 10 offensive line in the pass game, according to Pro Football Focus. And then you got receivers like Mike Evans and Godwin, and then you got O.J. Howard at the tight end position. Like, these guys are stacked on offense. I think that this team is going to be a juggernaut, potentially, if they can come together. Bruce Arians is an offensive genius. I really like what I see, and this team could potentially, and I say this potentially, be the kind of Kansas City of the NFC, the way their roster is shaping out. And they still have cap space.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you talked about, the last year Tampa actually finished as number 1 against the run because they had that big front with Vita Vea and all those. And I believe William Golston is still up there. But then in that linebacker group, they still have Devin White, who was the rookie last year, was a stud. Levante David, who's a tackling machine. But then as you talked about, their back end is a little iffy, but they still have a top 16 pick right now, too, is the other thing. And as you talked about the offensive line, they do have DeMar Dotson and Ali Marpet, who are solid offensive linemen. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go get a guy to help protect Brady, because as you talked about, they have all the weapons and they have the running backs and they have the tight end depth. But I think the question is now that I'm wondering, Tom Brady obviously has hit a decline. And so I'm wondering if his arm strength, because Bruce Arians loves to throw the ball down the field, not a lot of dink and dunk stuff that they did in New England with Josh McDaniels. So we'll see if Brady's arm strength can, be revitalized with Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians in that Tampa Bay offense. And then moving on in the NFC South, the Carolina Panthers have hit the tank button really here recently. They gave Teddy Bridgewater $60 million and Luke Kuechly retired, released Cam Newton. I mean, what's going on down there?
I mean, I love Teddy Bridgewater. I'm a Louisville native. I grew up a Louisville fan growing up. But I don't think that this is the right fit for Teddy Bridgewater. I really think that he could have went to a franchise with a lot more talent. This is more of a rebuilding project. And when you see what Teddy Bridgewater has done in his career, yes, he has been a good game manager for teams that are up and coming and rebuilding, but the stats don't really pop off the sheet. He really comes in a role like he did with the Saints this past year when Breeze was out for those 5 games. He really filled in. He really knows how to work with talent. And a team like the Chargers or the Patriots, I just figured that one of those teams who are loaded on offense with good receivers, solid offensive lines, decent coachings, like up-and-coming rosters, that he would go to a place like that and not Carolina. I don't see the fit there. Yes, they have Christian McCaffrey, but, I mean, if Cam Newton isn't getting it done with Christian McCaffrey, I just don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is going to do it either.
Yeah, and then I thought the weirdest move that they might have made is they went out and signed New York Jets former number 1 wide receiver Robbie Anderson. And all that time when Cam Newton needed help at receiver, they never got it for him. But, they have Joe Brady coming in from LSU as the offensive coordinator and Matt Rule as the new head coach. So we'll see what they have going on down in Carolina.
That is one thing that I loved about the Carolina Panthers offseason was that Matt Rule hire. I'm a huge fan of Matt Rule. I thought he was going to go to the Giants, but the Carolina Panthers snagged him up. Great hire. So, who knows? Maybe good coaching can turn that franchise around. But I'll tell you another team that made a huge move in the NFC South, and that was Emmanuel Sanders to the Saints. Just one extra receiver, one, Pro Bowl level receiver to go along with Mike Thomas, Drew Brees obviously coming back. That is just the one piece that they really needed. They really needed another really good receiver in that offense, and I think that they found it there.
Yeah, they had struggled for the last few years because Michael Thomas had always been the focal point of that passing offense. And then on the other side of him, you would have Tommy Lee Lewis or Ted Ginn Jr. or
the age of Ted.
Even lining up in the slot and stuff like that. So, finally you get a guy for Drew Brees that can take some pressure off of Michael Thomas and Drew Brees to work the underneath stuff and maybe try to take the top off of defense when you can. So obviously it's a great move too. But then moving on to the other South Division, I know the Falcons, they got Todd Gurley. Other than that, they haven't really made a lot of moves. But
they just came out with probably the worst NFL jersey
that's
in life.
I agree. That I was not a fan of the uniform move. But in the other South Division, the Houston Texans. Now, as we're sitting here, the Houston Texans have made a new move to replace the old bad move they just made. So you want to review the bad move or the good move first?
Neither. I think the Texans are just going in a downward spiral right now. They take on the Brandon Cooks contract. They just traded with the Rams for a second-round pick after they just gave up DeAndre Hopkins for a second-round pick. It's utter ridiculousness there. I don't know what the Houston Texans are planning on doing. If they're trying to free up cap space, I don't know. Maybe there's something that they know that I don't. Do what?
They're eating up a lot in contracts with Brandon Cooks and David Johnson's contract too. So, and they had Carlos Hyde last season too, which was what I think that trade didn't make sense to most fans because Carlos Hyde had, I believe, 1,000-yard season last year. But then you go out and dump your all-pro receiver for David Johnson and even a couple of draft picks and don't get much in return. We don't know what's going on down there. And then obviously the AFC runner-ups, they got the deal done with Ryan Tannehill. I believe it was a 3 or 4 year for $115 million, and then they got the franchise tag on Derrick Henry. So they're bringing back that core run and that team that can help them push them back to the AFC title game, maybe the Super Bowl if they get the shot to this year.
No, yes, Mike Vrabel and the Titans down there have done a good job keeping that roster together. I think was the right move. I really hope that they come to a long-term agreement with Derrick Henry. Normally, I'm not big into paying running backs. I'm not really big into, giving them a long-term contract. But I think Henry is young enough and he's starting to hit his peak enough to where for the next couple of years that he can be a really durable back. So if they give him a 4-year contract, I definitely think that will be worth it for the Tennessee Titans. But with that being said, I definitely think that they're playing it safe. And I think that right now that's a pretty good move for them. They're not really reaching and trying to make some crazy moves that could backfire. They're really kind of playing it safe. They said, we made it to the AFC Championship last year. We're gonna run it back, and we're gonna see what we can do with this group for another year and a full offseason with all these guys coming back again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then more moves in the AFC South. The Indianapolis Colts brought in Phillip Rivers to take over as signal caller and traded their first-round pick for 3-technique pass rusher DeForest Buckner from the 49ers, which in my opinion was a great move because the Colts needed a pass rusher in the middle of their defense. And why not bank on a guy who's already can be a Pro Bowler than a draft pick, and you don't know how he's going to pan out. And then Phillip Rivers will be interesting to see how he works with Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni in that offense because in some of his best years not Los Angeles, in San Diego, they were under those guys or with that coaching experience. So we'll see how that works out in Indianapolis to see if that team and that young core can put it together and make a playoff run next year.
Oh, absolutely. And when you look at this connection here, the one thing with Phillip Rivers is he's probably the least mobile quarterback in the entire NFL. You put him in a Colts offensive system with Frank Reich, who he's already really, really familiar with and has a good relationship with, and also a stud offensive line that they have there in Indianapolis. I think it's a great move. I love the trade that they made for DeForest Buckner. I thought it was a good trade for both teams in that. And the Colts are looking like a very, very – like no one's really talking about the Colts. But I like their roster. They got a good young defense, good offensive line, veteran quarterback. If they can just get a few more receivers and maybe another tight end there to replace Eric Ebron, I think that this Colts team could be a sleeper pick to make a wild card next year or possibly even win the division because the AFC South is just so wide open.
And I think you just made your transition into the next division we're going to talk about, which would be the AFC North, is Eric Ebron. One of my favorite dark horse moves going to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Very happy about that. I am a big Steelers fan, but yes, no. Last year we really struggled at the tight end position. Vance McDonald just wasn't getting it done, and now having Vance McDonald and Eric Ebron, all Eric Ebron has done is praise Ben Roethlisberger, and he is super, super excited to be in Pittsburgh. And I definitely think that that's going to help the offense. I mean, they didn't really need to do that much with Big Ben coming back. Juju's going to get a little bit older. Rookie sensation Deontay Johnson was looking really, really good. James Washington, I hope, can take another step forward. So we're just going to see. But Eric Ebron, definitely a huge move for that Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
Yeah, I just figure we move this along a little bit. But the one team that I feel like is still being underlooked after all this free agency talk is the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins might have made some of my favorite moves of the offseason so far, going and getting Byron Jones to pair next to Xavier Howard, which you could argue is now the best quarterback tandem in the league. And then went and got out, which if you're going to have Brian Flores as your head coach, why not go get out his favorite chess piece in Kyle Van Noy, the outside linebacker, where you can move him all around that defense and make plays and create havoc. Miami's looking scary next year. It looks like a team that could contend for a wild card spot with the draft.
Oh. The Miami Dolphins are my preseason most improved team. They've made a ton of moves. They got a lot of cap to do it. And honestly, there's a lot of speculations that if they're going to trade up for the draft, if I was Miami, I would not trade up for the draft. They got 5 first-round picks here in the 2020 draft and then the 2020 draft and the 2021. So 5 combined first-round picks there. They are looking like they are building for the future. And with Tom Brady leaving the New England Patriots, it's looking like it's going to be them and the Buffalo Bills next year competing for that AFC East title.
Yeah, you can hear the sigh of relief out of the Northeast and the Miami area with Tom Brady moving out just to open up the race a little bit with the Buffalo Bills probably being the early contenders there to win that division. But the Miami Dolphins obviously sitting at 5-18 and I believe 24 have some chances to move up and get Joe Burrow if they wanted to, or they could sit back and take Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert or maybe even Jordan Love later if that's who they want. So we don't know yet, but Miami Dolphins are going to be very interesting whenever it comes to next season. That is, if there is a football season that starts on time.
Don't say that to me.
I'm trying not to. But I'm afraid that's all the time that me and Junie can give you guys today. And as always, it's up.
And it's good.
Good.